this is a video here. I have not watched this yet, so this is literally a blind reaction to it. So this is Morph's video on Star Citizen server meshing, Pyro delayed, and apparently he's losing hope. So this must be in response to CIG pushing 4.0 to the fourth quarter of this year. See what Morph has to say. Why is he losing hope?
By now, you guys have probably already heard the news. The next big patch for Star Citizen 4.0 with Pyro, the new star system, and server meshing has been delayed once again. And this won't be a surprise to many of you long-term backers who have developed a healthy sense of pessimism like me, something I wish I hadn't developed at all, and it's making me start to lose a bit of hope in the project. And no, before you ask, I'm not joining the Star Citizen refunds Reddit just yet. I'm a bit far from that. I've not lost all hope in the project, but with the CitizenCon last year that I attended, having so much hype in it, with all the features they showed off, getting us excited about what was coming and talking about how it was going to come in the next 12 months, it's hard to stay excited when they've delivered maybe 50% of what they talked about, if I'm being generous. What we've had so far in 2023 is the 3.23 patch. That's what we've got delivered to the live environment, and it contained mostly Squadron 42 polish, which is great and much needed, but ultimately not gameplay that transforms the experience of Star Citizen into something that's more like a game. And this is not coming just from me, guys. This is coming from Richard Tyrer, the now head of Star Citizen's development.
When I look at Star Citizen itself, it's a concatenation of a lot of features and a lot of content. I want it to be a cohesive experience that is all tied together. Now, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of gameplay already in the game, but it's in isolated pockets. But I want the connections. I want the interwebbing. That's the difference between features and content and a game.
So
what? There's a lot more gameplay that's interconnected to each other than I think what people realize. The problem is that you've got to take the initiative and actually just do it. I can guarantee you that if CIG started restricting access to, say, let's say that outpost stop refueling you, and you've got to go to the stations to get that, we'd start seeing a lot more players engaging Starfarers. Like, Starfarers would have a higher purpose. Like in Stanton, maybe not so much. In Pyro, yeah. Because the distances that you've got to travel are greater. You've got a higher chance of running out of fuel. Like, medical rescue and medical gameplay can work, except CIG's work on the reputation system has been minimal. And because of that, medical beacons are just available to anybody who can pick them up. It should be locked behind a reputation-based system. The emerging gameplay space has more potential to show how interconnected these gameplay loops are, but it requires players to take the initiative to make this all work. If you're constantly sitting there waiting to be spoon-fed, then yeah, like, the game's not ready yet. Nothing's connected to each other, because the systems aren't talking to each other to that sort of extent. But players can compensate for that. Players can do things. We already see players taking the initiative, all the racing and stuff that Atmo Esports is doing. XGR, there's another one that I literally just had a mind blank on. Prison gameplay. People complain about having to go to prison. That's not a problem for most players who are connected with a group that does merit selling. And then you got the smuggling side of things, getting the stuff into prison. Where does that stuff come from? Well, someone's got to mine it. Somebody goes out and mines that stuff. They get paid for doing the mining, then somebody comes in and smuggles it into prison, and they get paid for smuggling it in. And when somebody needs merits, they pay for the merits and they get out. That's a connected gameplay loop there. Different systems working together. But none of that's driven by CIG. That's all player-based stuff. So there is examples of potential gameplay that involve loops intersecting with each other. You just have to force it. That's a problem that a lot of players have. They're expecting to be shown the way, as opposed to, like sitting there and working it out themselves. I feel like there's things that CIG could do that would be easier wins that help them achieve that don't involve massive content drops, because like what Morph is talking about here is like, Pyro got delayed, so I'm losing hope. Like, what does Pyro bring that we don't already have? Pyro's just new spaces to operate in. But like, CIG could literally just build out Pyro and just use the exact same mission set, just with different endpoints and start points in Pyro. The contested zones, like what's the difference between a contested zone and a bunker? The difference between a contested contested zone at a bunker is literally the proximity to where you can respawn and other people respawning there. The loot, that's the motivation to go in there. But from a gameplay standpoint, what really is the difference? It's still an FPS map that you go into and shoot things. Because loot's just an end state. Engaging gameplay is about the experience that you have until you get to that end state. So if you're engaged with what's going on, you're more likely to repeat the loop, regardless if the end state is, you know, going to give you something that you want. Well, that's what I mean though. And like, you know, I don't fully understand what Morph is complaining about at the moment. Like, he's right, 323 just brought in like some quality of life features that were really just ported across from Squadron 42. You know, 324 doesn't really introduce exciting gameplay for us. It's the point that I've been bringing up for ages. That 324 is kind of like CIG made the mistake of talking about 4.0 so soon. So they announced 4.0 before they'd even talked about 324 because they thought that they're going to have everything in 323. So a lot of people now are disengaging with what's going on in Star Citizen because, you know, they're getting 324, which from a grand scheme of things, it's like you've got box moving missions for a higher quantity of boxes and they're larger than the 1/8 SCU boxes. That's really what it is. Glorified box moving missions that require a bit more effort to load onto your ship. Personalized hangars is kind of like a cool touch if you want to sit there and, you know, live in your hangar most of the time, but people play Star Citizen to go do other things too. The item kiosks, the freight elevators are kind of just like additional mechanics that, you know, bring functionality that we can leverage later on down the track. Trading between players becomes a bit more safer, a lot more visual. It's not one of these things where you kind of got to use all these workarounds to make it work. Mission rebalancing, some economy rebalancing, which doesn't look like much. They've removed all the drug trading terminals, so you can't purchase drugs anywhere. The only time you'll ever run into drugs now is if they've managed to get it off mission cargo. Like they've done a Vaughn mission or a high-ranking bounty mission. One of the cargo ships there just happens to have drugs or illicit substances on it. So we've actually lost something there, but 324 is just one of those patches that some people will be looking forward to, but the majority are just like, we want 4.0. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's a different map, but, you know, sometimes it changes scenery is enough. But I was surprised, like, to see Richard Tyra talking about, like, there's all these systems, but they're not connected together. And it's like, it's true to a certain point, but there's a lot more things connected together than what I think he's giving credit for.
It's something that they acknowledged themselves, and it didn't even deliver everything that was originally on the cards for it. If you recall, the cargo and inventory updates were originally planned to release with 3.23, but got pushed back and back and back until they eventually decided to make it its own .x designation for some reason, even though this patch that's still in PTU now after 2 months only contains basically one major feature, the cargo update, which is part of the inventory changes. And in my view, no matter how I look at it, Star Citizen has only delivered then essentially one patch so far in 2023, and again, nothing that really transforms the game. So where then is the acceleration and development that we expected this year from teams switching over from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen? Where are the bespoke Star Citizen features that push the MMO forward to becoming a real game, to create gameplay loops, to create...
I'm pretty sure Squadron 42 doesn't need cargo missions in it. You already forgot about master modes. Not that he forgot about it, Carlos. A lot of people just try and block master modes out of their head, but they have to interact with it. I guarantee you, if Morph was in game right now and he was trying to make this video and he was playing the game, he'd be fucking on about master modes. I don't know what you're expecting though, like out of this. CIG is being pretty clear about the features that they were trying to get done for this year, and that they're not going to be working on the same release cadence this year. Like, they'll try to, but it's more than likely that they won't be able to achieve that. And 4.0 comes with more than just pyro. I think that's something that a lot of people I think are forgetting. It comes with server meshing. Why it's got the next number iteration on it. It's a huge technological milestone. I don't know, like, I don't understand him getting upset that it feels like this year there's only been one thing. He's starting to lose hope, you know, pessimism and all that sort of stuff. It's like, the idea, or like, it's... I'm trying to just articulate this well. If CIG... they managed to pull off 4.0 with the pyro release, server meshing released with it, just those two features right there. Like, just server meshing in of itself was impressive. Pyro in of itself was like, yeah, okay, cool, it's a new set of scenery, but it's not wouldn't say it's groundbreaking. You know, like CIG could literally just swap the map with Stanton and just have us all playing on Pyro instead. Although some people have this theory that you need server meshing for Pyro because of the size of it and the amount of content there. So server meshing is necessary so that you can process or, you know, maintain a playable gameplay space. There's other tech that's still got to come in, and it's not going to be groundbreaking stuff, but it's all these like little 1%ers that add to the experience. You know, a lot of people complained about, oh, why is COG working on this fire propagation and stuff? I guarantee that the same people that complain about there not being enough threats in the game and that not everything needs to be about combat. Like, well, okay, what happens when you leave a faulty part on your ship and you don't repair it enough and then it catches on fire? No combat involved with that. That's a threat that you got to deal with. What Pyro represents the start of many systems in a bigger universe. Why people want 4.0 so bad. I think a lot of people are going to be upset after they get 4.0 and then they see the glacial movement afterwards. Because here's a reality check that I think a lot of people don't fully understand, that whilst we may get Pyro, we might get another system, but they're going to be fairly sparse. Right, but it's the first implementation of server meshing, and CIG is going to keep wanting to iterate on the server meshed environment. Therefore, an environment like Pyro is a really good test bed for that, and Stanton. But they don't want to increase the amount of systems that they have to monitor, right? I can't wait for Pyro and for Morph to make a video how single A2 ruined his Pyro sightseeing tour. Oh man, it'll be glorious. I'll probably end up ranting about that one too. Actual working jump gates would be meaningful. First hurdle is often the hardest. I saw the jump gates when they're in their like, you know, really raw phase. It's just a method of transitioning between two different maps. It's the sense that, you know, people build up though, and the problem that I'm seeing is that too many people are hyping themselves up over this. They're like, we almost got it, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be a new game, and it'll feel new for like 5 minutes. A lot of the backer, like everybody, including myself, like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm not doing it as well. Like we're all hyping ourselves up, you know, like Pyro, you know, new gameplay, new tech. You know, it's going to be great. The reality is that it's probably going to suck for a long time. You know, like we're going to get into Pyro and we're going to be like, yeah, sweet, we've got this, you know, we're going to be chasing down a target and we'll transition between servers and it will just disappear in front of us. And we won't be able to get it again. Because we crossed that server threshold and we ended up on a different region than them because more of our party members were from a different region than the one that we were chasing. Did you imagine that? You all want to get into the ATCQ and conga line into Pyro? Yep. Problem is not that Pyro got delayed to Q4. Problem is we've been hearing this for 5 years now. Yeah, like answer the call 2016. I remember that. I remember seeing the first footage of Star Marine back in bloody 2015. I don't think anybody would, you know, be wrong with accusing CIG with being slow and overselling and under-delivering when it comes to timeframes. There has still been progress. Feel like we're losing ground. Yeah, the baby PU, the hangar module, the first hangar module, and then the second one. It sucks that we gotta wait this long. You know, there is progress, it's just never at the speed that we want it to be. Far enough come this year, it'll go to PTU Summer 2025. Your summer or mine, Amiro? Because my summer in 2025 comes a lot sooner before yours. I'll stay there until CitizenCon 2025, where Squadron 42 release date will be announced for winter 2027. I don't know about that. I think CIG is on a bit of a deadline. Yeah, I'm Argentinian, can't you tell by my accent? Like, this is a point that I have brought up before in the past. It's like, Chris Roberts isn't getting any younger, right? Like, he doesn't want to be bloody working on this game until he dies. He wants to be able to play it too. So it's not in his interest to keep kicking the can down the road. At the end of the day though, like, the main issue that they've got is that they're bound by tech hurdles that they need to overcome. That and they're being crazy and fucking making 2 games at once. I'm not surprised though that, you know, they delayed bloody 4.0 to the 4th quarter. Like, I kind of worked out that was going to happen when CIG kept pushing back the freight elevator stuff back when we were in PTU for 323. Like, when they started doing that, I'm like, yeah, I will be surprised if we get Pyro this year. But I understand why. And this is the other thing, is like, getting upset at them over it. What's that going to do? Like, if you really want to, you know, like, you can contact customer support and express your displeasure, but you know, if it's a tech hurdle that they can't work out, them reading out that letter, hey, buddy, old fucking Agnes Leto is bloody upset with you guys that you haven't been making the progress that he's expecting you guys to do. Because you know, your marketing team told them that. It's not going to make the coders code better or code faster. Won't make the designers may start trying to take shortcuts. Hey, the coders, the programmers could start taking shortcuts too and end up making it worse. Lies, maybe they were lying. Maybe they've known the entire time, you know, that it was going to take longer. Or maybe they went, hey, we've just hit this tech milestone, showing it to Chris Roberts, and he's like, this is not hitting any of the things that I wanted. Do it again. Does anybody remember? I think it was CitizenCon 2016 when they were showing the slides. Was it for 3.1, 3.2 and all that sort of stuff? I think it was just like salvaging was supposed to be 3.4 or some shit. I'd say that they're lying to the wider audience. I'd say that a lot of content creators don't help with it either. But I don't know, for me, getting angry about this stuff, I don't think it helps. Like, I focus on what I can control in situations like this. It's like, well, if I don't feel like they're performing well enough, I won't give them money. I won't buy stuff. I don't think like that either. I've been getting my money's worth out of Star Citizen. Don't you worry, I fucking got my money's worth out of this game. I feel sorry for the others who are waiting for specific professions that will have, you know, like more engaging gameplay for them. Like, I think those who wanted medical gameplay, that they're being ripped off. Some of their expectations are a bit weird, but fucking Beam Citizen, not happy that that's all that medical gameplay, you know, boils down to at the moment. I think we'll start seeing a lot more, you know, engaging gameplay, and one of the reasons why I don't really worry about timelines, I focus more on the feature sets that they're bringing in. The only reason why I still look forward to things in Star Citizen, because it's like, hey, this feature's coming, and it's like, all right, I know that they're focused on that at least. The CIG has built a history of like, all right, we're focusing on this system, that's what we're gunning for. CIG keeps selling dreams, very compelling dreams made manifest by the beautiful designs of ships, but whether they'll actually deliver a complete game, I don't know, man. Like, if CIG wanted to lock down the MVP of Star Citizen, they couldn't do it yet. However, if they had to go, all right, Star Citizen isn't an achievable game, what can we pull out of this? They could like hyper focus on Arena Commander and Star Marine and we crack out a really compelling Battlefield clone, a really engaging one. They've already got like the private matches and stuff there. They've almost got the pieces that they need for that. They were working on Theaters of War. I played Theaters of War during their tests, and you know, my feedback was, you guys are better off buying the license to Battlefield and just putting your assets into that. That's literally what you've just built. You've just built Battlefield, but with Star Citizen assets. Except it's on your buggy platform with your buggy code and all that sort of stuff. So if this was what a marketable product that you really wanted to push out there, just buy a license to Battlefield. Put Star Citizen assets in there. And you're done. You know, my problem with TOE was I looked at it and went, that's a pretty intensive feature set to maintain. As I described before, Battlefield, a game, a complete game with all the built-in loops there, that's one game. And that's what these guys wanted to put into Star Citizen, their game, right? I think we're all taking for granted sometimes the amount of gameplay loops that we actually have access to in a singular game. Because there are entire games out there that have only focused on one singular aspect of things that we do on a regular basis in this game. And it still takes them years to crack out those games and get them to a polished state. And I understand that's where a level of pessimism comes from everyone, but like, it's just impressive that they've been able to get all this stuff in there and keep it all running together at somewhat playable frame rates. They'll have to cut promised content to reach a 1.0. Not because their goals are too big, but because they've demonstrated they can't complete these goals in a reasonable time frame. If we were to get everything promised, we'd be looking at a 2050 release, being generous. Maybe. I think part of the problem is expectation management. Expectation management of what they could achieve, and then new priorities popping up. Like, will it take them another 26 years? I don't think it'll take them that long. That said, I remember, what was it, back in 2016, talking with some of the guys in Discord, I couldn't imagine Star Citizen still being developed by 2024. People were saying, oh yeah, Star Citizen won't be out until 2024. I'm like, fuck off. We're a lot further along. But here we are. This year we might get Pyro and server meshing. Squadron 42 is probably going to get released next year. 2 years to polish the feature complete game. And for Chris to get upset at something 6 months out and probably add another 12 months of development. 500 more years? That's not right. Because that timeline is under the assumption that CIG has to build everything from scratch for every single system. You got to remember, Stanton was the test bed. That's the first system where they were building stuff out and working on their procedural generation tech. The only problem that I've had with their development of planets and moons and stuff is that I believe they've been focusing way too much time and effort on handcrafting the assets and then hand constructing locations and points of interest, and not leveraging the procedural tech that they've already developed. Like, they've been showing it for years. They already have the ability to procedurally generate entire systems. I think it was like, would have been 4 years ago. It was before the pandemic. I don't think you'll see it in a live build first, Amiro. I think they'll do it in a PTU build where they'll be like, all right, here's a system that we just banged out. You know, one of the reasons why everybody believes Nyx is the next system coming after Pyro is because it's the most logical system for them to build out using procedural tech that should require minimal intervention from the developers there with assets that they've already built out. So it makes sense that they would do that. It could also be that CIG is waiting on Squadron 42 to get released to help tell the history of things that we've encountered in Star Citizen. Because there's a lot of people out there that are expecting to be able to go to Earth. Like, there are people out there that are like, yeah, I want to go land on Earth and, you know, go explore that. Like, no. Pretty sure CIG isn't going to let that happen. You know, Starfield got around that by having Earth as a fucking wasteland. No, Sorrel, because unless your real life house lasts 900 years, like if it lasts 900 years, then yeah, sure, man. This generates more of a discussion than anything else, videos like this, so I think a lot of people like to have. Release everything in grey box and skip the high details that will accelerate development and improve quality of life assets. I don't know. Know about that. We've gone pretty far off topic as well, by the way. I'm gonna start the video up to see whereabouts Morph was, because I can't fucking remember anymore.
Reasons to want to log in and play the game every single day. So it should come as no surprise then that I'm not the only one losing a bit of hope, losing a bit of interest in Star Citizen. It seems to me that the wider gaming community also shares this view and this feeling about the game. And this is—
Are you fucking serious? We didn't even get like 15 seconds beyond this. If you look up clickbait fucking titles, of course you're gonna see all the negative shit being said about Star Citizen. An idiot? Fuck. The total views of everybody just shitting on Star Citizen. That doesn't matter. It's easier to generate content around rage baiting people and get more views, right? Because people are more interested in bad news than they are in good news, because they want to know what the controversy is. Builds curiosity. He's about to show his views dropping. Let's see.
This is something that can really affect Star Citizen's development in the future. It could really hurt the project. Now, I know some of you guys will just say I'm being a Debbie Downer, I'm being a negative Nancy, I'm being a doomer. But the thing is that if I look at my own statistics on my YouTube channel and new views coming in to watch Star Citizen content, it's that it's lower than it's ever been since I even started covering the project 6 years ago. And well, I'm ready to accept that I am a bad YouTuber and my YouTube channel is dying and maybe I should just quit. If I look at the CCU game, which covers data collected from the Star Citizen website, it seems like it's also matching my statistics in New Citizens. Now, if you just look at it for funding, you might be deceived into thinking that Star Citizen is doing very well this year, that funding is covering up the issues with adding new developers to the game.
I gotta hear this. I need to hear this because I'm wondering how you can justify this part.
To help accelerate the project's development. But if you look at new backers, well, you'll realize that there's far fewer new people coming in since 2020. And those smaller numbers are spending more and more money on the project to keep it going. Which is why CIG have been pushing more and more ship sales to try to cover the losses in new players. The point of this exercise is not to create a video that brings people down about Star Citizen, that makes it feel like things are going in the wrong direction. Instead, what I'm trying to do here is try to help create a real sense of urgency with getting Star Citizen to a better point.
No, that's not the problem. The majority of games that have a crowd-funded model, or I guess a better example would be mobile games and freemium games with microtransactions and things like that. The majority of the people who keep that game funded is the smallest percentage of the people who actually play it. It ends up being this situation where there's only so many new people that you can tell about something before you hit the diminishing returns. Now, this isn't new. This has already happened with Star Citizen in one phase, and not many people, I don't think, noticed it. But I did, because I was studying game design at the time, and one of the things I was looking at was freemium games, mobile games, like the free-to-play but microtransactions out the arse. This is where I learned about whales and how they normally keep the games, funded. I haven't looked at the statistics in it in a couple of years, but I believe it was in 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. The free-to-play mobile games had been able to generate 45 billion US dollars in profit for that year collectively. So that's what CIG's marketing is really aimed at, is like keeping the whales engaged. It's why they sell the dream so much, because more people are into the dream than they are into the actual game, the ones who are paying for it. But we've seen this sort of pattern before, and I'd say it would have been roughly around 3.10 that it kind of started merging into the next wave. So the first wave was the people who bought into the Kickstarter and bought into the game when there was no game, right? They bought into the idea, they bought into the dream. The earliest backers there, they're part of the first wave. And over time, as more features came out, they got to see the game change and evolve, and some things being delivered, but not to the extent that they were hoping. And they bought hard into, the, I wouldn't say promises, but the projections that CIG were making with how much progress they would make. And roughly around 3.10, they started becoming disillusioned with it. CIG recognized this, and they started going, all right, we need to start pumping new blood into the game or into this community ASAP. So they start marketing to new people and focusing on only bringing the new people in and showing off the stuff. Those who have been back in the project the longest saw it come up, and they're either expecting it more from it and didn't get what they wanted, or they weren't expecting much and got more than what they were hoping for, but still not quite there. People who started coming in around 3.10 and that, well, they didn't have all the high hopes and expectations. They weren't sold on all the, hype and promises and projections that CIG was making in the early days, and like where Chris Roberts is sitting there fucking waving his hands around like a magician talking about bloody fidelity and shit like that. So they were buying into what they could see and what they understood as early access. It may be a few years before it comes out, but we can play something now and come back to it on occasion. And I believe we're starting to come to the end of that particular cycle. Like, we're at the end of that wave there. And the thing is that CIG has been making mistakes with trying to push the game onto larger content creators. All these bigger time streamers who are streaming in front of tens of thousands of people, audiences of millions, on their YouTube channels and things like that. And they're putting the game into their hands and it just isn't performing, because they're trying to do the same thing that they did back in 3.10, which was bring new blood in. They're trying to bring new blood in because what's happened is that those from 3.10 up until now, they're hitting that disillusion phase where they're sick of bloody waiting. And there'll still be some of us crazies who will, continue going, through these waves, and will still be around, but the majority will start petering off. Frank Unit, yes, but how long can you keep these whales entertained with hype and promises? Eventually denial will fade and reality will kick in. Well, that's why you got to get new whales, mate. This is the predatory side of CIG's marketing. And I'll say it's predatory. 100% say it is. Not all the time. Like, there's an entire Star Citizen Reddit. Star Citizen refunds. Not everybody's going there. People aren't going to believe what somebody else tells them until they experience it themselves. Like when you tell a kid, hey, don't do that, and then they go and do it. Why'd you do that for? I didn't think it would actually happen like that. I believe CIG's in this, they're trying to push for the third wave of newer backers to come in, and they've kind of shot themselves in the foot with the poor performance that they've been experiencing. And they're like holding out for 4.0. No, 4.0 was planned for the third quarter. Then again, if you believe the road to Pyro, it was supposed to be back in 2018. Time's going to keep marching forward though, so we'll eventually get it. You'll have some people that'll be concerned about funding and things like that, but I guarantee you, these guys know what they need to do to get more funding. They've already proven that they can do it from the smaller wave of whales out there. If anybody is expecting 4.0 to come out the gate like flawless and fully functional as though nothing's gonna go wrong, you're a fucking idiot. Like, actually, that's not entirely fair. Not everybody understands the significance of the tech that's been introduced. The problem here, and everybody in this chat and myself, we're all guilty of this, we've hyped this game up more than what we've realized. Why wouldn't it work? On the server side, most of the things should be fine, right? Until you've got clients with weird fucking computer settings that start interacting with those servers. Until you've got people trying to, do weird shit to those servers. You gotta remember, when CIG does all their tests internally, it is a sanitized and controlled environment. And not more tech preview then? Probably costs more in resources than what it's worth. CIG probably looked at the tech preview and realized that people were only engaging with it to, check out the new content, and that was it. Like, there's a significant portion of Evocati members that never log in, yet they have the privilege of access to, like early builds that nobody else gets to see. 9 times out of 10, they just log in, look at the new shit and go, it's all broken, and then come back later. You guys remember 3.18? In the PTU, it was fine. And then when it went live, it just went to shit for 2 weeks straight. There you go. So for anybody to expect like 4.0 be a flawless launch, like, you're either completely ignorant to how software development goes, or you're just an idiot, because you do know and you're expecting more. Like, I am fully expecting that we're going to have major connection issues, and we're probably going to experience the same things again. Not only because of the new tech, but because 4.0 got hyped up so much that so many people who were taking a break have gone, you know what, I'm going to log in for 4.0 now because it's out. You have the floodgates open and everybody's trying to cram into the new game or the new patch to check out all the new shit. You're always better, I wouldn't say being pessimistic, but trying to be a bit more realistic with CIG and what they're saying. It is always going to take them longer to achieve something than what they expect. What they tell us and what we get, it has never been on time. It has never been 100% the way that you've expected. Sometimes they've gotten close, most of the time not. And if you keep playing the game and you keep coming back to it, you keep getting upset because CIG are underperforming. And there's a saying for this: fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's it. That's what it boils down to. Like, if you keep buying into the things that CIG are telling you and believing them over and over again, the first person that you need to look at is yourself. And you got to be okay. Like, for myself, I came to terms with that a long time ago. And I'm like, all right, just take what CIG says at face value. I'm interested in the tech side of things. I get to do my thing in the game. I'm getting, enjoyment out of it. I get to, play with people that I like playing the game with. I get to do things in game that I like doing. Like, expectation management is an individual responsibility.
For CIG, that the feeling that I have and that perhaps some of you share is not an isolated feeling, that it's something that needs to be addressed by real changes in Star Citizen's development to help the project succeed. And 4.0 being pushed to the end of the year is going to be a massive blow to morale for at least my community and me personally. We know from the history of Star Citizen releases that Q4 release patches are almost always released live the following year, at least in Q1, worst case scenario, Q2. Meaning that if we go by history, 4.0 is probably not coming out to live until next year, Q1 or midway through 2025. So my problem is that I don't know what to look forward to right now. 4.0 seems far too distant to start thinking about anymore, and now I want to know what we're going to get in between if we get anything. And if it's nothing, then I'm really going to start feeling down. But
oh no, Morph is going to be sad. Fucking get the oh man, get over yourself. Dude, how long you been fucking tracking this game for? Why is this a surprise? Why are you getting upset over this? Play other games then. Or, like, try and challenge yourself in the current game and master a skill set. Try and make up your own things. See what else you can do as opposed to fucking just sitting there waiting for CIG to spoon feed you everything. So far, this just feels like he's having a fucking whinge that CIG isn't releasing 4.0 sooner, and that he's complaining that because they're not doing it sooner, he and his community are going to cry about it. Like, all right, well, what the fuck are they going to do? Like, there's a reason why they pushed it back. CIG has pride bringing things forward, and release things in a, buggy and hit state, and the community fucking was livid about it. Now they're pushing it back because they're sitting there going, well, not quite ready yet, so we're going to aim for this one. And then him sitting there going, oh, it's probably going to come out sometime mid next year. All right. Well, what do I have to look forward to then? I don't fucking know. It's not my responsibility to fucking take care of your enjoyment. But you're going to complain at CIG that they're not fucking putting content in there to keep you entertained? This is a problem with a fucking PvE mindset. Players who only want a PvE game constantly need developer attention through the creation of assets and missions and content. They need it constantly. It is extremely difficult for developers to create engaging PvE based content that is procedurally generated, because human beings are really good at picking up on fucking patterns, and once they pick up on the patterns, any subsequent challenges that you may try and present to them, they will be able to overcome in record times because they recognize the patterns of the things that you tried putting in front of them. This may change in a decade's time when AI, is used more in game development to create more variation that human beings can't expect at runtime. But we're not there yet. But now it just sounds like he's having a fucking whinge. CIGs and releasing stuff to keep me entertained. Fucking go play something else then, man. Go do something else. They've got all the money that they need to fucking keep playing. You're welcome, Sorrel. Like, I just don't get it. Like, why cry about it if it really upsets you that much that CIG isn't gonna have a lot of content for you between now when you think the next patch is gonna come out that's you think is worth playing. Go find something fucking else to do until then. That's the great thing about being an adult. You get to make big boy decisions of what you're gonna fucking do with your life. And in this case, you decided to make a video and have a sookie la that CIG isn't releasing shit in the time frame that you want them fucking to. Fucking hell.
I don't like making videos like this without giving some kind of constructive feedback, so here's what I think CIG could do to try to turn the situation around. And the first one is better contextual communication. Communication that is about things that people are most interested in concerning the development of the project in its current state. So I'm not talking about just any kind of info. As much as I love hearing about some developer who's working on really cool parts of Star Citizen or some personal information about how they started development, this is the kind of info I feel could be released when the project is going well, when we've got a lot of tangible content to sink our teeth into, not when there's a drop in interest and there's a drought in new content. They instead should focus on things that are most important about Star Citizen's development that people know about and are very interested about. For example, what's going on with the teams that have swapped over from Squadron 42? Has that transfer been complete, or are those teams still primarily working on Squadron 42, and if so, what's the hangup? Why are things not going as planned so far in 2024? Then what's going on with server meshing? How are things progressing? What issues are the teams currently tackling? What's the big holdup with that? Why haven't we had any preview channel tests like they said they were planning on doing last year? How are things going with the plans for 1.0's release? What is the 1.0 release for Star?
So he just wants a whole bunch of progress updates. That's literally everything that he's just asked then. What's the progress on this? What's the progress on that? Tell us the progress on things. Bad thing to want to know what's going on, but like CIG used to do this years ago. They did. They used to do like 40-minute bloody around the verse episodes that were full of information. It was great. Problem is that all the developers were being interrupted for hours per week to give these updates, and it was eating into their development time. And then things would change between weeks, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, things have changed the following week, and information that they were releasing was no longer relevant, and the community was getting upset because they were seeing things like change at a rapid rate, because that's normally how it goes in game development when you've got multiple teams working together, and some teams have to depend on others for feature sets, and they end up getting a delay, not only because of technological issues, but real life issues as well. There may be a programmer that's working on a specific feature set that they're the only one tasked to work on that, and their kid gets sick. So whilst one of the parents is taking care of the kid in the hospital, the other parent's got to take care of the other kids. CIG isn't going to tell us about, you know, the personal lives and, you know, like, oh, this developer had to take this, you know, amount of time off because this, you know, this reason here. Not their responsibility nor their obligation to do that. I understand the desire for progress updates, but like, this is just, I can guarantee you that if CIG answered these questions, the community is just not gonna like the answers. Spectrum will catch on fire. Like, that fire tech that CIG's been working on in-game is gonna fucking come to Spectrum. And yeah, Morph will be making another video having a whinge about CIG being slow on the tech side of things. And demand to know. I get Morph is saying about wanting progress updates, you know, in the absence of like content releases for Star Citizen. But sometimes you just gotta learn to take what you can get. And as I was saying before, you believe that there's not going to be anything in the game for you to do, take a break. Go play one of the other fucking games that are out there. Like, what was it? Star Wars Outlaws came out today or some shit? Was that yesterday? I don't know. New Star Wars game is out. Go play that. This just feels like Morph is trying to justify him having a whinge that he's not getting content. Read me content. Like a true PvE, the hunger that a PvE player has. PvA, MMO, yeah. But the E is still relevant. Let's just get through the rest of this because it's frustrating me.
Citizen, what is a commercial release for the game going to look like? How many star systems is that going to include? What's the next star system going to be for Star Citizen after Pyro? Is it going to be in a 4.1 patch, or is it going to be added in as part of 4.0 since it's been pushed back for so long? And some of this information could be information that's discussed at CitizenCon, but if all they're going to talk about is still stuff we know about, like Pyro and what's coming in Pyro and what's next in Pyro, we've been doing that now for 3 years, and honestly, I will probably walk out of the presentation if they end up talking about Pyro and only Pyro once again. And none of these questions are even about when. It's more about what's going on, and that's all I want to know. If you can't tell us when something's going to come out, fine, but at least tell us what's going on. Following this better communication targeting things that people are more interested in concerning development in a drought, I'd also like to see them take more physical action to keep people interested. Personally, I would be way more excited about a preview channel release testing the jump points or testing server meshing than I am about testing moving boxes around. Even if it were only a few incremental tests, it would have been way more exciting this year for me. Also, there's a lot of people who haven't been able to test Pyro just yet. Maybe do another isolated Pyro.
What do you mean test Pyro? What are you testing on Pyro other than playing the game on Pyro? Like, there's no testing of Pyro. No one's there to fucking test Pyro. Everybody was there to play the game in Pyro, check out the new sites, have a look at what's new. There's no real testing happening. It's not like people were bloody going to an outpost and bloody checking on all the NPCs and then taking off the ship, flying away, coming back and seeing if all the NPCs were there still. You know, we're supposed to be getting the blockade runner mission. Like, that's new content. Box moving simulator, it's soft piracy. Like, if you wanted to talk more about like a feature set that's coming that, you know, would create more gameplay, base building would be a huge content drop. I think the idea of like needing another area to play in is, I'm already going to predict it now. He's going to be disappointed with Pyro within a few weeks after it comes out because there's not enough engaging content. That's what's going to happen, because he's going to realize that the content that they've got in there isn't far from what we've already got in Stanton, and that 4.0 was less about this whole new influx of content and more about the technological hurdle that they're overcoming by getting server meshing working within their game engine. Why make a base when you have hangars that you can't raid? Because you want to build your base somewhere else. You don't want to have to take a train every time you want to go to your hangar. See, there's going to be people out there who think exactly like that. It's like, all my stuff's safe here, so I'll never leave the hangar. I won't bother with base building. And then there's going to be plenty of other people like me who are going to be like, I don't give a flying fuck about my shit. I'm going to go build a base out in the middle of nowhere. And if somebody tries to raid it and I'm online, I'm going to fight them for it. And if they take my shit, that's okay. I'll just get more shit, right? Because I don't care about acquiring heaps and heaps of stuff to sit in a fucking hangar. I care about the gameplay experiences that I get in Star Citizen. Like, there's players with different motivations when it comes to playing Star Citizen, and different mentalities when it comes to, you know, how they want to engage with the game. I've never understood that mentality of wanting to try and hoard your stuff and, you know, try and keep it all safe from everybody else. Then again, I've never really been attached to things. Unless there's something that's got sentimental value behind it, I won't care that somebody stole my 100 fucking P4s. You're like, well, that's shit. Now I gotta go get another 100 P4s. But the mentality here that Morph's talking about, you know, like there needs to be content. I need content. I need, you know, to be consumed. You can't find your own fun in the game now? Like, is there things for you to do that would keep you entertained? What does Pyro really bring to you that's new other than a change of scenery? Maybe the change of scenery is what you need and you'll just go around doing missions there. Guarantee you, I already said it, you're going to be sitting there a few weeks later and be like, Pyro's like Stanton from a content perspective, except there's more bloody murder hobos getting around. You know what I mean? Because when you keep focusing with Stanton 2.0, yeah. When you keep focusing though, like on the consumption of content as opposed to the experiences that you can have with what you got now, you're just always going to be chasing and never feeling like you've got a sense of like fulfillment, because you're always chasing something new as opposed to trying to make what you've got work. I would say that the community would be better off trying to push for certain feature sets after we get 4.0, like base building. I think base building should be like the thing that the entire community just hounds CIG on, just hounds them on it. Get us base building now. Get us base building yesterday. I want to build bases. Just that in of itself. People can build their homesteads, can build their towns, can, you know, set up defenses and all that sort of stuff. Okay, if people want to, you know, don't want their bases being, you know, raided or anything like that, and they build them in Stanton and they're protected by the UEE who shows up if you start attacking them within 5 minutes and they just fucking laser you all. I'm okay for that to happen in 1.0. As long as there's like a place where base fucking raiding is a thing. I'm okay if there's like a space where you can't do base raiding straight away until, you know, more tech gets added. And let people build all the fancy bases. I guarantee you Morph will be more engaged with that than fucking anything else that CIG brings into Pyro. Because he'll be able to build stuff, and being an architect, he'll be more interested in, you know, seeing what he can build using the tools that they've given them. So the community should be aiming to CIG for tools to put in their hands to do more themselves. Give us things to make with our own hands. The idea though of doing, you know, giving players tools means that we can keep engaging with the gameplay ourselves. We can build more out of it. You know, this is almost like going to a beach and complaining that the local council isn't setting up enough attractions for you at the beach to do things. You're surrounded by sand, you've got water, you can bring stuff with you if you want, you can make your own entertainment at the beach. An architect reviews a pile of rubble. A pile of rubble is more fancier than the previous one. Yeah, this is a real issue, and unfortunately, like, you're going to see a lot of people in the community like this, where they just want to consume, feed me CIG, I need more. And CIG needs to really be focusing on putting the tools into the players' hands so that the players can entertain themselves while CIG builds out everything else around them. Frank gets it. Start raiding picnic baskets. There you go. You gank people on the way to the fucking fish and chip shop. You can either gank them for their money or gank them for their food as they're leaving.
Test that doesn't have server meshing to test some of the features of the area. How about preview channel testing of the destruction model that they've been working on, or the new changes to the flight model that they're going to do after the feedback concerning master modes? It seems like they're going to be retweaking stuff a little bit. What I'm saying here is if they can sprinkle in some more tangible stuff that we can get our hands on before we can get that big update, alongside some information about why things are taking longer, I believe it would keep people at least a bit interested until you do the full release. Obviously, releasing 4.0 would turn things around, but I'm trying to be realistic here.
And I call bullshit on this. How many people do you think are engaging in the engineering gameplay that's in Arena Commander right now on a regular basis? Like, is Morph doing that still? We've had that for a while. It's new. You can give feedback on that. Why aren't you engaging in that gameplay? I pointed it out earlier about the tech previews. The reason why CIG probably hasn't run more recently is because they're just not getting the engagement that they were hoping to get. They've got the data that they need, and they probably picked up on people just going, you know what, I'm only here to see the new shit, and then after I've seen all the new shit, then I'm just going to go away. A business needs to make business decisions, and running servers costs money, and if they're running a special server set to do tests, and people aren't engaging with it, they've still got to pay for that shit. But you know what I mean? Like, we've got something here, an example of shit that you could be testing. Like, we had master modes in Arena Commander that people could have been testing and giving feedback on. I don't know how much testing Morph did with that. I didn't do much testing with it. My own personal experience with all this, you know, experimental gameplay modes that CIG introduces into Arena Commander, I'll check it out. I'll give my initial feedback, and then, you know, I'll go do the things that I want to fucking do. So why would these suggestions that Morph's making, like, oh, can't you introduce your new tech things that we can test out? It's like, yeah, they've already done that. Why aren't they doing more of it? I don't know. It might have something to do with people not being as engaged with it. The problem with the engineering gameplay is that CIG hasn't iterated on it based on the feedback that the community's given. And I don't blame them. Like, they can't keep sitting there on a gameplay loop cycle like engineering and just keep iterating and iterating at this current point in time, because the rest of the ships just aren't working with that right now. That's right. No one's doing the engineering Arena Commander modes. People engage with it for a little bit, test out to see what you can do with it, and that's it. Because it turns out that the majority of backers aren't actually interested in testing shit. They want to play the game that they fucking paid for, right? So to give a suggestion of, hey, CIG, give us things that we can test, you know, and give you feedback on, doesn't work. It doesn't fly. And CIG's got the metrics on this. They have a better idea than what we would. Our evidence is anecdotal, but I'm pretty sure it's closer to the truth than what the people realize.
If there are serious issues holding up the release of 4.0 because of server meshing testing, then fine. But at least tell us what's going on and maybe let us participate in testing to make it happen just a little bit earlier if possible. Beyond
You don't think they wouldn't do that? If they thought that getting us to help test would actually help them out, they would fucking be getting us to do it. Because it's free fucking QA for them. We can be the dumb clients that they need us to be. These are just suggestions. Like, he's literally just leaning into shit that CIG's done in the past and saying, why don't you just do this stuff again? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because they don't fucking need to do it. The real crux of the problem here is that you just don't have enough fucking content to entertain yourself with. People are fatigued with being unpaid testers for a decade. You don't have to be an unpaid tester though. You don't have to play Star Citizen. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. It's a choice. So if the game's not in a state that you want to play it in, don't play it. But the complaints that Morph has is just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. Like, give us something to do, CIG. You're a fucking adult, mate. Find something else for you to do. Find something for yourself to fucking do. CIG wants testers give rewards for finding and contributing to bug reports. They already do that, Frank. It's actually a problem. This is actually a genuine problem. Are you the only one who plays as Chris Roberts pointing a gun at your head? We're not allowed to talk about that hazard. Not in front of the rest of the world, okay? But going back to what Frank was saying, there's actually rewards given to players who do testing. And it's a problem because there are people out there who are going through the issue council and they're invalidating bugs and they're saying that they're duplicates of other bug reports that are being made. Here's the problem though. The one that they're trying to say that it's a duplicate of is normally a newer report than what the one that they're saying is a duplicate is. They still do it, Hazard. They're still doing it. They just don't make a big song and dance of it. They did it in the past. When they first did it, they were like, yeah, hey, check this out, and just sprung it on the community. And people were upset because they were like, wait, I didn't know you guys were going to do this. If I'd known that you were going to do this, I would have participated, right? And they got upset because they missed out on the opportunity to do this because they thought it was unfair because they didn't get the chance to do it. But CIG's like, well, we're just trying to reward the people who actually contributed to the testing. But the cat's out of the bag, and there's people on the issue council who go around invalidating other people's bug reports, saying that they're duplicates, and that's all in an attempt of getting a reward for testing. It's dumb. 100% what it is, Warlock. Duplicate spamming for the sake of racking up issue council engagement. It's dumb as fuck. But they get away with it. The other side of it is that nobody has any sort of method of being able to track the metrics externally either. CIG is the only entity that knows about your metrics. You don't even know your own testing metrics. You've just got to engage with as much testing as possible and hope that you're the one that gets that reward. I remember though, like, there's a couple of them that marked a few of our issue council reports in Mongrel Squad as duplicates, and then we've all looked at the date of it and we're like, wait a second, Ours is a fucking older one. We found it first. Fuck off. But CIG doesn't check that shit.
On that, given the information that I have, I'm not sure what more they can do. In my mind, CitizenCon is going to really struggle to be able to raise hype for the game again like it did last year, given the lack of delivery. The best they can hope for is to try to sustain it, and the way that I see them being able to do that is by talking about a release for Squadron 42, not that it's making progress, and by talking about the future of Star Citizen beyond the 4.0 release. Talking about what 1.0 looks like, what a commercial release looks like, what the next star systems are going to be, what new gameplay systems are going to be in that 1.0 release, and what loops we can expect to participate in. Anything less than that is going to be difficult for me to be interested in. And no matter what they do, it's going to be in the back of my mind that 4.0 got delayed once again. So yeah, what are you guys thinking about Star Citizen right now? Are you feeling down about it like I am? Are you losing a bit of hope? Let me know down below and exactly what you'd like to see out of CIG to help stave off that lack of interest. And of course, if you wanted to help stave off the death of my channel, you can...
Yeah, nah. There's a video if you guys want to watch it on your own time. Believe it or not, it's only 10 minutes. Not with how long this fucking React's going for it. Like, I believe CitizenCon is going to have a lot more content to do with Squadron 42. I think that at CitizenCon, they'll probably have a playable mission of Squadron 42, so they'll have a vertical slice that you can play, but you'll only be able to do that if you go to CitizenCon. Some of the stuff that he's saying though, you know, like, oh, they're gonna have to talk about what's coming next, 1.0, and, you know, like new systems and all that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, that seems like your no shit Sherlock type thing. CIG isn't stupid. They understand what they're doing, and that how long they've been kicking the can for like Pyro and that. They're at that point now where like all the ISCs that they're doing, talking about Pyro and things like that, it's taking content away from CitizenCon. Because if they were going to talk about Pyro at CitizenCon, the ISCs that we're getting now and the Star Citizen live episodes that we're getting now, they wouldn't be doing. They wouldn't be talking about Pyro and ISC. They did this last year where they didn't talk much about Pyro stuff. They just focused on the stuff that was coming in the next patch. And that's kind of what they're doing now. They're focusing on the stuff that's coming in the next patch. The problem is though, is that they were expecting Pyro or 4.0 to be coming out the upcoming quarter, which should be not next month, but the month after. They've talked about the stuff that's coming in 3.24 already. We're going to get it soon-ish, probably sometime this week maybe. Then it's all the stuff getting put into 4.0, but their content release cycle has been messed with now that 4.0 got pushed back to Q4. So they may end up stepping on some of the toes of stuff that they're going to talk about in CitizenCon, or they may like try and do the filler episodes like they did with, was it Gareth? Oh, I can't remember his name. The designer, the ship designer. Gavin, that's the one. Yeah, like filler episodes like that. And, you know, doing dev episodes talking about things to do with the development of stuff. We can do filler episodes like that to try and, you know, pad out until we get CitizenCon. And the next most logical thing is that CitizenCon will be about stuff that will be coming in the next 12 to 24 months. So, looking at Squadron 42, a vertical slice of players to engage with, maybe a bit of hype about the trailers and things like that for Squadron 42, hence stuff that's going to come across from Squadron 42 system wise. So like Odin, for example. Odin is a system that features heavily in Squadron 42. We may see that coming in before 1.0. That's just speculation. I think Nyx is the next system. Most people think Nyx is the next system. CIG may drop a bomb on us and go, alright, I've just given you guys Pyro. Our next goal is to give you 3 systems at once. So that bumps it up to 5. They're going to be the systems that come in from Squadron 42 though, so you've got those. Like CIG could do a system that's been rated by the Vandal and put that. It'll be the 5th CitizenCon about Pyro, if they did Pyro. Which is why I don't think they're going to talk about Pyro. If they do talk about Pyro, it's about the stuff that they've already got there, and they're like just going, yeah, we've got all this extra tech that's going into Pyro, and you'll see it in Stanton. If anything, if they're going to talk about anything that's related to Pyro, it'll probably have something to do with base building. Server meshing was a goal that they needed to hit before they started introducing the dynamic economy. They started trickling it into, I think it was 3.18, or was it 3.20? It may have been earlier than that. Like, there's heaps that they can talk about at this year's CitizenCon that has nothing to do with Pyro. And honestly, I think that's what's going to happen. Morph's video was like just 10 minutes of him complaining that there's not enough content to keep him going. That's it. And then saying, CIG, feed us more content by answering questions of things that you probably aren't ready to answer yet. Or give us extra things to test for you, completely ignoring the fact that we've got things that we could be testing for them and nobody's really doing it. Do other things. Like if Star Citizen isn't progressing at the rate that you want it to be progressing at, just find something else to fucking do during that time. You know, if it ends up bloody falling over on its ass, then at least you know that you didn't waste your time. If it doesn't fall over on its ass, then guess what? You get to play a brand new fucking game that you've had minimal interaction with. Seems like a win-win in that sort of scenario. Myself personally, there's enough in Star Citizen to keep me entertained. I still manage my expectations and I still manage my own gameplay. But I have heaps of other things to do. But I still get in game at least 4 times a week to do piracy, do FPS training, flight combat training. But I've made it my mission to find other things to do and engage with other gameplay loops that I normally wouldn't when I start getting bored. 100% execute. Fucking love to punish myself. I always say that if you're playing Star Citizen, you need to be a glutton for punishment. Because if you're not, you won't last. Actually, no, I think it's a masochist. I'm gonna quickly look it up. Yeah, masochist. That's it for this bit of content.